Well, hello and welcome along to our Analytics Half an Hour. This afternoon, we're going to tackle channel tracking in Google Analytics and the problems that occur because simple tags are omitted from URLs. Now, this is of extreme value for business, and you'll move ahead of lots of people just by doing these simple things. Okay, just to introduce me before we get going, I'm Vernon Riley. I'm a chartered mechanical engineer, and I've spent my career working with systems and processes. So I apply engineering insights to ensure the measurement and reporting systems fit business objectives. Just a word about the interface in your browser. If you're watching it live, it's fairly simple. To the right of main window, there's a sidebar. One of the tabs is a chat window, and in that you can post messages to me, and I'll post messages back. If I'm able, I'll do my best to keep up, but you'll appreciate I can't necessarily read all of the messages whilst I'm concentrating on talking to everybody else. So with that, let's get going. Okay, now this channel tracking actually isn't hard. It's actually fairly easy. And the source is one of the two pieces that we're going to talk about this afternoon. And the source is exactly what it says on the tin. It's where your marketing material is found, and that might be a website. It might be somebody else's website. There could be email. There are physical locations. It might be that you're giving a speech. You know, it might be that you've gone to a networking event. There are all sorts of ideas that you can put in play to name the places where the marketing material is found. And crucially, you can do this in a way that will be readable and will make sense to people weeks, months after it took place. Now, the tendency is to think about tagging as something that applies only to electronic links. And I'm going to argue that that's a failure of imagination. Most current forms of marketing are designed to provoke a reaction, whether they're online or offline, and to provoke the respondent into asking and finding out more. And we're asking that respondent nowadays to normally do that on the web. They've got a mobile phone, they've got a tablet, they're in front of a computer. So they're going to react, they're going to respond by going somewhere on the web. So all forms of direct marketing can be annotated with the source, no matter whether they are offline or online, you know, and things that are a mixture, because the web is a very common way of people responding. Now, even if this were implemented consistently in the editorial process, and this is just one piece of information, it would be a marked step forward for most marketers. And I'll show you how you do that, talk to you about that in a moment. It would mean that when you got reports in analytics, you knew where the visitors came from, where they'd come from to arrive on your website, your blog, or whatever facility you're offering, right? And in response to what kind of marketing material. So you've got the source, and when you get into analytics, if you go down the left-hand side and you go to the acquisition, you'll see under all traffic, the default is source/medium, or at least that's the top level menu option. And I've simplified it just for the sake of this example. One of the opportunities, you've got a link to click and it does source. And you'll see in that red box, we've got example shop.kksmarts.com, so a web address. We've got google.com, so a referral from a search engine. We got LinkedIn, a referral from an online networking. The trade association site, you know, those are online places, right? Now, as well as those, I've got two others. You've got networking and we've got email. Now, I'll take the hit that these could be named more accurately, more clearly, right? And if you did lots of networking, it would make sense to identify each of the organizations that do the networking that you go to. And here in the UK, you know, you might be going to Business Biscotti, you might be going to 4N. There's a whole range of networking groups that you might be going to. Email. Now, this isn't easy to name accurately, right? The source. You don't want a situation where you've called it the same as your own website, right? If you do this, the analytics will see your email traffic as self-referrals, as referrals that have come from your own website, and that's going to confuse things as things move forward. So one solution is to create a subdomain, right? To create a special form of web address that means that you've got a web address that isn't the same as your normal website. And I've called one that I use engage.kksmarts.com, right? So I get a referral, but it's not from www.kksmarts.com, the standard website. Now, you'll begin to see that because you've got control over this simple naming, right, you can make the names meaningful to you, meaningful to the people who are going to look at the reports, right? And you can relate each goal completion in this to the source of the visitor, right? Now, I'll acknowledge that there are some issues with something that's called last click attribution. That is, that Google tends to look at the last click and say that that's the most important one. And that's an issue that can be solved. But to be honest, that's an advanced issue, and it's one that doesn't hurt anybody who's never done this stuff before. It's only down the way that you suddenly get to that. And if that's an issue for you, happy to talk to you about that. Just reach out and we can have the chat, right? Most practitioners are going to find that they haven't got good naming of the sources, and just starting to do the simple things would be a marked step forward. Okay, so that's the source, right? Where the marketing material is that the visitor has referred to, picked up, right? Now, the next piece of information that's vital, right, is the marketing channel, right? The media, if you like, the how did the visitor get to you, right? Now, you can deliberately set this up, right? You can arrange to tell Google, right? You tell it the source with the UTM_source equals parameter, right? And you tell it the medium with UTM_medium, right? But, right, and I wanted to go through this in some detail, there are some default definitions in the Google Analytics account. It's already been set up to have 9 channels, right? And you'll see those if you go into the report, and I'll show you that in a moment. But I want to go through first what the definitions mean, because those aren't well understood. Right. So you've got these definitions, right? You've got organic search, social, email, referral, paid search, other advertising, display, and direct, right? Now, starting off with organic search, the Google definition is fairly simple. The medium has been set, right, to be organic. Now, it's fairly clear to me that Google Analytics is in many cases going to set this, right? It's going to deduce that the medium is organic. It's going to look at whether they came from a major search engine like Bing, right? And it's going to then set the medium as organic, because I can promise you, having looked at Bing, Bing is not deliberately setting all the parameters so that Google can pick it up and push it into Google Analytics. You wouldn't expect Microsoft to want to cooperate with Google that way, right? So Google fills this in. And so that bit is probably fairly accurate if your visitors are coming from major search engines. Now, social, what does that mean? Now, there's a bit of awkward code here, if you like. Regex, it means regular expression, and that's a weird form of pseudo code that programmers use. Let me explain to you what it means rather than try and tell you how to read it, right? It means that if the medium has been set to social or social-network or social-media or SM or social space network or social space media, then Google will put it into the social marketing channel. Now, again, Google Analytics deduces this. It doesn't rely on the links being already set, but obviously if you set them that way, it would respect that. Now, this gets corroborated by something I've noticed, which is Google Analytics has a tendency to record traffic coming from social networks as social, irrespective of whether it's I'll call it free traffic or whether it's paid traffic. So if you've got traffic coming from Facebook ads or Twitter ads or LinkedIn ads, they're liable to be put into the social channel rather than paid search or paid advertising by Google if it doesn't know any better, right? So you do have this issue that Google is deducing it, and on this particular occasion, perhaps getting it wrong, right? Now, email, very simple definition. The medium equals email, right? I've almost never seen this in the average analytics account. And email marketing is huge. The visibility of its effects in Google Analytics is almost entirely absent. It's a very hit and miss affair. You know, when you pick up an account, is it going to have anything that indicates that email is being used as a marketing channel? In my experience, often not, right? Now, referral, simple definition, right? It's going to be set by analytics when the source is obvious and no medium has been set, right? And you'll see a whole range of referrals. That's where all of the referrals from other websites, other sites around the web come from that get to your website or blog or whatever. Okay, so that's fine. Now, paid search. Oops, go back. Paid search. Again, that little bit of Greek, but CPC is cost per click, PPC is pay per click, and paid search, right? And the ad distribution network does not exactly match content. Now, I've taken this straight off the Google Help because I wanted to be accurate here. This is designed to capture AdWords traffic, right? It might be capturing traffic from Facebook. If you set it up so that Facebook is setting the medium to, let's say, pay per click, right, then it'll capture the Facebook ads, right, or LinkedIn or whatever. But it's the ad distribution network does not exactly match content. That is the clue to me that this was designed for AdWords. The Google Display Network, which is where you now find the mechanism they now use for putting ads all around the internet on other sites than the search engines, used to be called the content network, right? So that's where this definition comes from, right? So you're looking for things where paid search has come in, and the chances are it's also going to be interested in whether the source, right, has come from a search engine. So it may well be that Bing advertising is picked up and put in here. Okay. Now, other advertising. The Greek cost per view, cost per acquisition, cost per point is a slightly older and more advertising industry specific definition where there are rating points, which are, if you like, a rating of the effectiveness of a particular medium. So you can imagine the New York Times is a highly effective medium and your local paper is a less effective medium. Yeah, right. So a range of definitions and content text, another specific medium. So unless these have been specifically set, the chances are that you're not going to find a lot of visitors who've been classified as coming through the other advertising channel. Okay, so what do we got next? Well, we've got display, right? And it's a bit of a ragbag, really, right? It's advertising that hasn't been captured, recorded in one of the other channels. Again, thinking a good deal about the Google experience, you've got the display network, right? And the ad distribution network, exactly matching content, and ads that are not text, right? So that's an interesting one. So it's about image ads and stuff like that. Okay. Now, there's the last one I've put in red, right? Direct. And there isn't a definition for it in Google, not a clear one, right? So I've added the definition, medium not specified, which is the best way of putting it. It's thought of as being the visitors who type an address direct into their browser, right? But crucially, all the visitors that Google doesn't understand are also put into the direct marketing channel. So direct becomes a sort of I don't understand bucket, right? And this bucket can obscure an enormous amount of information. And you can find that there are quite significant websites where the proportion of visitors who come through the direct channel can be large, 40%, 50%, even 60 or even 70%, right? Now, it doesn't take a genius to work out that if it's in the I don't know bucket, you don't know which bits of it are working and which are not, right? You don't know what was responsible for it. And if it's because it truly couldn't be known, then that may be reasonable, right? But in most cases, it could be known. It's down to either it being tagged deliberately. So what this all points to is the need for some kind of editorial process, right? Because you may find that the source and the medium are set automatically, but they're often left unset. And if they're not set, the visitor is direct. And as I suggested, there are accounts with half the visitors, tens of thousands of visitors a month classified as direct. Now, that's a waste of effort and a waste of funding. You paid all the money, you put all that effort in to get all of those people to come to your website, and you don't know which bits of the money, which bits of the effort worked well, and which bits of the effort don't work well, right? Who's hurting whom would be the question I would want to ask at that point. So how do you see this in Google Analytics? Well, you're in very much the same place as we were before, right? That's the acquisition source stroke medium. Click the medium, right? And you'll see we've got referral, we've got web, we've got networking, we've got email. We've got broad categories of medium. We might have print, right? And you'll see that a single medium could cover a whole set of sources. So if you were minded to, right, you could go and say, so where are all the places that visitors have been referred from? And there could be hundreds or even thousands of websites that people have been referred from, and each of those will be a distinct source, but they all sit in the medium called referral, right? Now, what I'm hoping you'll see is we've only picked up two things, right? Source and medium. This kind of broad segmentation, once in place, has a dramatic effect on your ability to deduce which bits of the marketing are working. And that was the promise I made at the start of this webinar, that we would be talking about which bits of marketing work, right? And correspondingly, which bits of marketing don't work quite so well and you might want to improve. And if you can relate each segment or each micro segment to the behavior of the visitor, you're in a much better position to optimize and improve your marketing results. If it's left unset, if you don't put the editorial process in to do this, you've left an ideal place for waste to hide, right? You won't be able to see clearly what's working and what's not. Your opportunities to optimize your marketing spend are going to be far fewer than they would otherwise be, because you're just looking at an overall number. Let's say you've got your total marketing budget, right? And you're thinking, well, what from my total marketing budget caused that? Well, how do I save money? How do I make it more effective? Don't know, right? You can't segment and understand your audience. So you've denuded Google Analytics of much of the rich information that you could have, right? So what I'm suggesting to you is that there are two very simple things that if you put into your editorial process, right, you do UTM underscore medium equals UTM underscore source equals, right, you can make a marked step forward, right? Now, you can have an information sheet if you want to write to me. I'll give you the email address at the end of the presentation. But it seemed to me that whilst there are some dialogues out there, and if you go take the Google exams, they refer to their URL builder, right? They've taken the sort of trivial approach, which is, let me show you how to name something as a source, name something as a medium, and put the URL together, right? But I've created a service called ROI Fixer that goes well beyond this. Now, I'm going to talk about that in more detail probably next time, right? But the kind of thing it does is it tags the links, but it shortens them. So if you're going to put links onto Twitter or things like that, where you want shortened links, you can shorten them with the Google shortener service, right? That's free, and there are help files and videos that'll help you get the best out of tagging, starting to take what I've told you today forward and to talk about naming conventions and other stuff like that. And if you go for a small subscription, the service will send you the specific code to implement the solution for offline media. So you get the code you need to put in for onto your website to handle tracking from leaflets, brochures, all these sorts of things, right? To record the results of your link tagging activities. You want to be able to do that so that they're in a database. So if you've got a team of people creating content, they can create effective naming conventions, and they can refer back to the library of tag names that they've gone. So you don't get, well, I think what I did the last time was, right, and a cloud of confusion and a different typographical errors and all the rest of it. So that's a service. I'll talk a bit more about that in a future occasion, but we're coming to the end of our time now. So I just want to put to you what we've talked about this afternoon. We've talked about what the lack of a source, the lack of a medium does to your ability to optimize your account, right? And if you're wanting to add it, well, you take your page address and you put question mark, if there's nothing else after the page address, question mark UTM underscore source equals, and then your own human readable name, right? Ampersand UTM underscore medium equals, right? And then the other piece of information, right? And we talked very briefly about the ROI Fixer service. I hope that's all made some sense. If you want to talk further, my details are on the next page, right? I would be interested to learn if there were things that didn't make sense, things that you want further help with, right? And I'd like you to get in touch with me and to tell me about that. And if you want to find out more, there's my LinkedIn profile. My email address is vernon.riley@kksmarts.com, and the web address is www.kksmarts.com, and the blog address is blog.kksmarts.com. So that's been good. I hope you found that useful, and that you will endeavor to start putting these kind of things into the editorial process for creating content that applies in your operations. So this is Vernon Riley saying thanks for watching, thanks for coming along, and I'll look forward to talking to you soon. Bye for now.